with administering a lethal dose of insulin to 60-year-old on January 5th, and she died on January the 8th. And welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lanice and I do these cool little nursing videos. If you're not new here, hello, and thank you for coming back to my channel for another one of my videos. I really do appreciate it. So today, I'm not gonna say I'm looking rough, but I'm just looking kind of how I'm feeling. My cycle is supposed to start today and I'm still trying to make it to the gym. So I went on and took a shower, put my gym clothes on this morning because I knew that if I did not, I might not go, and I have to go to the gym today. So anyways, I am here because I am going to try to start a series called Story Times. I see that people on YouTube share a lot of their different stories, not necessarily related to the nursing. I've seen people do stories about their dating life. I've seen people do stories about their pregnancies, like anything you want to know or hear a story about, people have done it on YouTube. So I'm going to do some stories on the things that I have seen or the crazy things that have happened to me while being a nurse. And I think the most recent story is that I actually worked with a good nurse. So, if you guys have not checked out the movie on Netflix called The Good Nurse, and you're a nurse, don't know what you're waiting on. Even if you're not a nurse and you haven't checked it out, still don't know what you're waiting on. But The Good Nurse is about a young lady who is a nurse. She makes friends with a new nurse that currently works with her, and they become really close friends. And she starts to get the sense that he's killing people, or that he's doing things that he shouldn't be doing, and because every time he would work, a patient would code, or patients were dying left and right that just normally, that seemed like they were going to have a good recovery. So I actually worked with a good nurse on one of my travel assignments. I'm not going to tell you guys the name of the facility that I work for, and I'm not going to put the news article because that will tell you the facility that I did work for, but just know that I worked with a good nurse. So if you haven't seen that movie, I will leave like a picture or something here in the video so you can know exactly what to search for whenever you're looking on Netflix. So my experience working with a good nurse was, I was working at a facility. I was working on night shift and the good nurse was working on day shift. He was, to me, he was, nothing to be suspected of him. Now, he was a little weird, but a lot of nurses are weird, to be honest, because a lot of smart people are weird, and I think that a lot of smart people have a little bit of undiagnosed Asperger's or autism. So you're gonna get a couple of weird nurses there, but my experience that I remember very clearly was, like I said, he was working on day shift and I was working on night shift, and he worked, you know what? I feel like I'm getting a shadow on my neck. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. I am really, I don't know, going through it in my head today. So anyways, like I said, the nurse was a little weird, but that's kind of expected when you have really smart nurses. He worked day shift, I worked night shift. However, I would get report from him very often because I was on a travel assignment, so I was gonna be working my 4 days a week at least because I wanted that extra shebang in my check. He was a staff member at the hospital and he was working so many hours. Now, you read these, when you start a nursing job and you go through the training and they tell you different things to look for whenever it comes to like people taking narcotics or like stealing medications. They tell you different things to look for, and one thing that you look for is people working a lot of extra shifts. But to me, that's kind of just thinking That's to compare a nurse working extra shifts. It's like having a runny nose. You can have a runny nose because you have a cold. You can have a runny nose because you have bad allergies. You can have a runny nose because you slept with the fan on last night. Like, it doesn't really mean anything because nurses work extra shifts all the time. Like, you can't really decipher the reason unless you have other things going on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Hope that made sense. But he was always working a lot of hours. Again, didn't think anything of that. But one day specifically, I remember I had a patient. She was African American and she was unable to do anything for herself. And she was dependent. I don't feel like I had a bad attitude or anything towards this patient. I don't feel like I did anything wrong. But the next day, he gave me a report on the patient. I took care of the patient over the night. The next morning, he came in. I gave him report on the patient. He took care of the patient during the day. That night I came in and expected to get my same patient because I wanted my same assignment, and I had been fired from the patient. He told me that the patient didn't want me as a nurse anymore, but not to worry about it. And I'm like, of course, in my mind, I'm on a travel assignment, so I don't want any issues because I had already been on a travel assignment before and kind of had a couple of issues. So I'm panicking at this point, like, did I do something wrong? Is there something I need to know? But he just kept assuring me like there was nothing to know. But then I went to the charge nurse. This is at shift change when he told me. So I went to the charge nurse that was charged on day shift, and I asked him, like, what's going on? Why was I fired from this patient? Why do they no longer want me? And he was like, did you ask so-and-so? I'm trying not to say this man's name because I don't want to give out too much information. And I was like, yeah, I asked him. He said it was nothing to worry about. And he was like, what? So then I got both of them together, the charge nurse and the nurse that took care of the patient, and that broke me the news that I was fired from the patient. I got them both together and I'm like, yo, what's going on? So both of them look at each other, and the nurse that told me that I was fired, that took care of the patient the whole day, the good nurse, he was like, nothing, I don't know what's going on. He was like, you should ask. He was the one who told me to ask the charge nurse. That's why I even got them both together, because I'm like, you're telling me to ask the charge nurse. The charge nurse is telling me that to ask you. It's some bullshit going on here. What happened? So I get them both together. And the good nurse is like, I don't know. Nothing happened. And the charge nurse is like, you're the one who told me that she didn't want her as a nurse anymore. Like, I don't know why. He looked at him like, you're lying. And still that night, I never got to the bottom of it that night. So after the good nurse walked away, the charge nurse is like, I don't know what that's about. He was like, something is not right about him. He told me, he was like, something is not right about him. He was like, because he knows what's going on. He doesn't want to tell you. And I was like, well, clearly you know what's going on too, and you don't want to tell me because you're not telling me anything. So the night goes on. I try not to stress myself out too much. I work my 12 hours. The next morning, the good nurse comes in. And the good nurse is like, he gets report from me, gets report from the patients that I, did give him back. And then I come back, I go home, nobody calls me, says anything to me. So I sleep, I come back the next night, and he's like, hey, the good nurse pulls me to the side, and he's like, hey, so last night he told me that so one part I didn't tell you, let me rewind. During the night that I was taking care of that patient, her son and her daughter-in-law had came into the room, but I was very polite, very courteous to them or whatever, didn't think anything of it. So the good nurse tells me the next day that the son's wife, or the daughter-in-law to the patient, didn't want me to be the nurse anymore because the husband or the son of the patient had made a comment about me being attractive. And so the wife didn't feel comfortable with me being the nurse because I guess she thought maybe he would say something to me, or, I don't know if they had marital issues or what the problem was. But the way it was told to me was, the daughter-in-law of the patient did not want me to be the nurse of the patient anymore because her husband had made a comment about me being attractive and that made her feel uncomfortable. Totally understand. Don't know if I would have handled it the same way. Don't know why you want to be with somebody that's telling you that other women are attractive to your face. The way my insecurities are set up, I couldn't do it. But it is what it is. So I left it alone. Long story short, this was a contract that I ended up losing because this was also the contract where I was given a pregnant patient. Mind you, it was a cardiac floor. I was given a pregnant patient and also had a patient complain, so they let me go. But a couple months later, I'm looking at the news, or like I'm looking at Instagram, and everybody that I follow that are nurses that I know personally, maybe went to nursing school with or work with or just know through the career, are posting that this same nurse, the good nurse that told me I was fired for being attractive, he was arrested because he was overdosing patients with insulin. And one of the patients who died they died during the time that I was on contract at this assignment. Y'all, my freaking heart almost stopped. Because I didn't know if it maybe was that patient that fired me and that was God saving me. I don't know. But he was arrested and he was charged with, I believe, 3 counts of manslaughter. Well, I don't know if he hasn't been charged yet. He's currently locked up. But let me see if I can find his charges. Hold on, be right back, y'all. Okay, so I have the article here. And so I began that contract, I believe, January 6th of 2022. And I stopped working that contract in March of 2022. And I know I was working on that contract because my birthday is January 23rd. Aquarius. Some birthdays coming up. But so it says here that the good nurse was charged with administering a lethal dose of insulin to 60-year-old on January 5th, and she died on January the 8th. And he is also being accused of administering a lethal dose of insulin to a second patient who was 61 years old on January 22nd, the day before my birthday. I actually think I was off that day because I know I was off on my birthday, which was the 23rd. And she died on the 27th. It says he was also charged with administering a near fatal dose of insulin to a patient age 62 on December 1st, 2021, but she survived, and he was charged with attempted murder for that. So, honey, I mean, I don't know how to feel because, I mean, I knew he was a little on the weird side, but he had 2 daughters and a wife that he brags about and he loved dearly. And he had been working there for 20 something years. So it's like, you just don't know what to expect from people. Like, you can't put anything past anybody. Don't trust anyone. I mean, I very rarely, if somebody asks me to waste with them, I very rarely will like just put my information in and walk off. Matter of fact, I actually probably never do that. And people probably think that I think they're stealing. And it's not that I think you're stealing. It's the fact that I don't know if you're going to steal or not. Because I also work with another nurse who, she was not doing any of this. She was not, none of that was going on with like the good nurse stuff. But when I work with her in dialysis when I first got my LPN many years ago, 8 years ago. And she was not able to administer medications. She was an LPN. She couldn't administer medications because when she was working at the nursing home, she was stealing patient medications and taking them herself. She wasn't stealing them to sell them on the black market. She wasn't stealing them to give to someone else that was sick and couldn't afford their medications. She was stealing them to get high. And if you go, I live in North Carolina. If you go on the North Carolina Board of Nursing, you can read through every single court case, every single charge that anyone who has had a nursing license has been brought against. You can read every file, you can read anything on the Board of Nursing. And one time I did that, and honey, I went down that rabbit hole and saw all the different things that nurses were doing. Child, I'm like, how are you not scared? Like, y'all ain't scared? Like, I don't know. But I mean, really, in order to be a nurse, you really have to have a good code of conduct. You have to have morals. You have to be an upstanding citizen. And I think that kind of ties back to my last video, or one of my videos I did about TikTok, when nurses are going and posting their icks, and nurses are, you know, getting on TikTok and dancing and telling all the patient's business and stuff like that. Like, we are held to a different standard because of the things that we endure. I know I can have a patient. I work in a hospital that's 15 minutes from my house. So the patients that I see in the hospital, I may run into in Kmart. Well, we don't have Kmart anymore. I don't know why that came to mind. I might run into at Target. I might run into at the mall. I might run into outside of those hospital doors. What is that dog doing? And so I have to have a good moral standing, or like a good moral compass, in order to navigate my career as a nurse, because I see a lot. I am trusted with a lot of information, and I'm trusted with medications. And so y'all, just watch out. You know what I'm saying? If you're interested, some people like I've had people comment about legal nursing. That is kind of an interest of mine. But if you are interested, just go to your Board of Nursing website. Go to any state's Board of Nursing website. You don't have to be a nurse to go and read these files of all these crazy things that nurses are out here doing. So if that interests you at all, go check that out, and maybe it'll put the fear of God in you, and you'll know that you're always going to get caught. Okay? You're always going to get caught. It's no need in even trying it, because you're going to get caught. What's done in the dark always come to light. Okay? So that is my story of me working with the good nurse. And this article was written in October of 2022. And like I said, I worked with him in January of 2022. So can you imagine, like, I was at work when I was going through Instagram and seeing all this. And so I'm just like, I don't know, it's just crazy. And the crazy thing is that they say that these patients were black women. I know the one that survived. I'm looking at a picture of her here. She was black. So, hey, you know, I don't know if he had a vendetta against black people. I don't know. And I don't know if he was ever telling me the truth about me getting fired from that patient, or if he was really just trying to harm that patient. I don't know. But God does. And, you know, rest these people's souls. My condolences to the family. Prayers out to the family for sure. I hope that they get everything that they're entitled to. Even though I know that will never, you know, bring their loved one back or match that. But, you know, I really do pray for the families, and I hope justice is served. But yeah, that was my first story time. I hope that you guys enjoyed my first story time. And that's really all I have to say today. So again, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Not quite sure what you're waiting on, why you ain't did it yet. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm almost positive you will like all my other content. So subscribe, like my videos, stick around for my other videos, and let's just enjoy this 2023 together. Okay? All right. So my name is Lanice. If you haven't already, click the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you're notified when I do more videos. And I am going to head out of here. Peace.